sure to set yourself. Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 130 of the Dudes and Beer podcast, coming to you live from the cave here in Austin, Texas. I am Chris Jordan, your host. With me, as always, is Stephen Bishop.
What's up,
as
people?
well as the awesome Julie Connolly.
Hey.
We're going to be talking about some deep topics tonight, some hard stuff that's been in the news recently with, of course, the beginning of school. But also with the release of the movie Vaxxed last year, all kinds of stuff. We will be talking with Jinny from the Vaccinate-Texas.com about vaccinations, what vaccinations are all about, the importance of vaccinations, and dispelling a lot of the myth behind them. We talked in the title about the dangers of vaccinations, because sure, there are some things that could happen, but I think a lot of stuff is really blown out of proportion quite a bit. But before we get into that, I want to give a quick shout out and a quick tip of the hat to Scary Dad, ScaryDad.com and the Scary Dad podcast. Billy Stewart and Scott Fontenot, you guys put on a great show in Houston this last weekend. It was absolutely amazing. I had a super fun time. Everybody did. And welcome to the HC Universal Network. In homage to you, I bought some.
What'd you buy, Chris?
I bought some
you gave
collectible
me some weird
cards.
Stuff, man.
Oh well, I gave you your choice.
Don't open them.
I got
I think mine just fell apart.
What
is it?
No.
I think that was already on the table.
I bought some Topps collectible cards, and mine come from 19. Let's see. This would be 89. I was going to say it was Ghostbusters 2, so that was definitely an 89
Mine's
film.
85.
That was my freshman year. Yeah. And note the price on there: $3.
$3,
my
man.
friend.
I bet you did not
I
pay
did not pay $3. They were discounted on the move.
Oh,
so
yeah? Is that how that
you
worked?
paid less than $3
I
for
paid-
something
I
from
paid-
1985?
Yeah, I paid less than $3 for both packs. But we're gonna open them up here.
Let's do it,
and we're
man.
gonna see what we got.
Let's open it up,
and
dude.
we're gonna enjoy our bubble gum.
Should I put some pictures up?
You
while
should.
you're
You
doing
should.
it?
man.
You should totally get some
Hurry
pictures
up, I've got mine halfway open.
And I gotta say, I was a baseball card collector back in the day.
I got this.
I loved
I
my
think I got
collectible cards.
The Fright Flicks.
Yeah, Fright
The
Flicks.
Fright.
I got the Ghostbusters 2.
I don't know if I
action.
can say that 3
that's
times
pretty
fast.
cool.
Yeah, it was some nice bubble gum, and that's what we're gonna do.
Dude.
We're gonna enjoy our bubble gum this evening.
From 1989.
This is
I got some cool stuff. Look, I got Freddy, dude.
dude, sweet.
That's actually
I
pretty
knew
awesome.
I picked a good pack.
That is
Dude,
pretty
that's
cool.
dope.
I got a cool one, dude.
It's awesome.
Dude.
Yeah,
The bubblegum.
Oh,
we'll
my
pass
bubble-
these around because sweet. I got Vigo.
Is this chewable?
Got a nice Vigo shot.
Ooh,
And-
wait, Slimer.
Yeah, we got some Slimer.
Oh, dude. You
All
thought
kinds
you
of
got
good
the
stuff.
best pack.
Oh no, the evil of Vigo coming to take the baby.
Dude, you thought you got a
Coming
good
to
pack?
take the
Check
baby.
that one out.
Oh, sweet. I like that. I like the polite alien saying thank you. So, Steve, here, let's pass these around so everybody
these are
can enjoy.
so cool.
I know, right?
These are so cool. I had another Freddy. I'm not sure what
Nice.
that's grandma or something.
Well, I'm gonna take a delicious sip of my Zoe. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Hops and Grain. Go out and get their dispensary IPA. They just rebatched it and put it out on shelves in
Amazing.
cans, folks. Limited release. Go out and get your dispensary IPA. Steve, it's time, bro.
Let's do it.
Um,
What do we?
we
You're
have to-
really going to chew this
we
gum
have to
from
eat-
1980?
In honor of
Let's
Billy
do it.
Stewart, yeah.
Let's do it. Dude, I've got mine
Billy
broken
Stewart
about
is one of my
6 pieces.
oldest friends in life, and
Look at this.
I'm going to do it for him. This is for him and all of his hard work.
Mine
for
looks
Scary
like that
Dad.
astronaut Tang stuff.
I know, right?
Thank you.
Yours looks a little bit in better condition than mine, actually.
Seriously? And mine's
But-
older. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's,
Crunchy. Oh, it's crunchy. Bubblegum should not be crunchy.
Yeah.
But it still has that same taste.
It
though.
does have the exact same flavor, which is kind of horrifying. Because it is one of those flavors that's kind of like stamp licking. You
Yeah.
know, it sticks in your mind.
The only
but-
thing is, it never got chewy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Did you swallow it?
after this...
Yeah, I had to.
After this, we may actually need vaccinations after this,
I
Stephen.
don't think it works like that.
That was great.
I had to do that.
37-year-old gums.
I
Great.
had to do that for Scary
Yeah.
Dad and for
That's cool.
for Billy and Scott.
That's cool as hell,
My
man.
boys.
I
Those
like
are
that.
awesome.
It's classy.
Oh, that was good.
So,
I guess. Loved it, dude.
yeah, basically that turned to powder in my mouth.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That turned to powder.
Well, I've never heard of anybody dying from eating 30-year-old gums.
No.
Well, I don't think many people eat
No.
2-year-old gums.
Or getting sick.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't have to go to the
First
extreme of
time.
dying.
Life, death on
Yeah.
YouTube.
I know.
Yeah. At one point, people didn't die from putting, firework fountains on their head either. But
Yeah, firework fountain.
pay attention to the news sometime. Speaking of news, speaking of stuff like that, it is time to get serious from the lighthearted topic of a horror show and eating 30-year-old bubblegum live on air.
I've got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
it's
even
lingering.
know if Taco Bell can
Yeah.
take care of this.
Yeah, you got it all over your mouth.
Yes,
Yeah.
it can.
Oh, my God.
But let's get into a little bit of your history, Jinny. How you came to be involved with the vaccination movement.
Okay.
What your
Yeah.
history is. What was it that got you? Because it's a pretty specified thing to be
Sure.
active in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what was it that brought you there?
So, when I became a mom in 2012, I was kind of new to Texas, too. I moved here in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like a lot of people, I just didn't know that vaccines were an issue.
Sure.
When I was a kid, everybody got vaccinated.
Yeah.
I don't remember anyone not getting vaccinated.
Mhm.
I remember standing in line to get like a TB test and things like that when I was a kid. And,
Sure.
and I don't remember anyone not doing it. So when I had my first baby, I just assumed it was still the same. And then I started getting involved with other moms and joining like mommy groups on Facebook because I
Sure,
didn't know
sure.
anyone who
Right.
had children that
Sure.
young. And that was the best way to meet other people who also had babies. And it started to come up. Like people were posting about not wanting to vaccinate. And then I started looking
Right.
into it. And then I found out that this was a really common thing that was
Yeah.
happening.
Yep.
So my background, I have a little bit of science in my background. I'm also an ex-lawyer, and I was like, this is honestly kind of crazy. I got to do something about it. So I didn't know anyone. I didn't really have any like connections, but I just thought, well, at least just for me, I'm going to start posting about it.
Sure.
And I'm going to start posting about pro-vaccine stuff because I think it's ridiculous that these people are not vaccinating for really some of the silliest reasons I've ever heard, which we'll get to later.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah. we'll
Anyway,
get
and then a friend of a friend basically connected me to some other people who were actually involved with, doing this as a movement,
Yeah.
going to the Capitol,
Bringing
talking.
awareness to it because not a
Basically,
lot of
yeah.
people are aware that it is
An
a hot
issue.
button issue, man.
Yeah.
Hot button.
So they approached me, asking me, well, it was kind of mutual. I was like, I want to volunteer, whatever I can do. So I did a couple things where I was trying to like talk with parents. I hosted like a dinner at my house. And then eventually they were like, what we really need is we need more and more parents and more community members to get involved. Would you be willing to lead that? And I was like, definitely. And that's how Immunize
Wow.
Texas was born. So
True grassroots movement.
yeah,
I love
basically
it.
at the beginning of 2016 is about when, Immunize Texas came to be, and ever since then we've been growing. But it's definitely still an uphill battle in Texas. It's we can talk about that, but
Yeah.
So it's going on like 2 years, right?
yeah, basically,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. I
Cool.
started towards the end of 2015, like it
Uh-huh.
was the end of that last session. I didn't get too involved because it was a little bit later, but
Right.
I got to see some of it. I did some office visits and stuff, but like beginning of 2016, that's when we finally like, okay, we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna make a Facebook page and form a
Yeah.
website and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
And, definitely coming from the 70s. I was born in the mid-70s,
Dude,
that
you're
was-
freaking old, man.
I'm up there. The gray's not for no reason. But, I definitely remember being vaccinated. I remember getting all my shots. I remember going through all that. You know, having
Like
to
it
have
wasn't a question.
Yeah.
strep. Yeah, it wasn't something that was questioned.
That rubella and all that.
But it was also the fact of we got courses of individual shots.
Sure.
And I think some of the issue that people have, one that I know I have that's a concern, just like logically for me, is the concept of the MMR shot.
Okay.
And that's a like
We can talk about that.
big old siren issue that came about.
What's
really
the MMR again?
the
Measles,
MMRs,
mumps, rubella.
yeah, measles,
Oh,
mumps,
okay,
rubella,
okay.
Yeah.
and it's
Just 3 things you don't
three
want.
things, three
right.
things that you absolutely don't want.
Sure.
That at one point we immunized one thing at a time for,
Okay.
and now we have one singular shot.
Right, they combined
It's
it.
basically all of them together, and that was where a lot of the vax movement and things like that came from in the mid '90s,
Okay.
late '90s. I remember even the Shield took on the topic of their child getting autism
Right.
from shots from their vaccinations.
Right.
From Jenny McCarthy.
And
Uh-oh.
did Jinny McCarthy distribute shots to people?
Yes. No, she didn't. That
She
was the
did
whole
it. That's
thing.
the whole problem.
Yeah.
Total opposite.
And there were tons of celebrities that jumped on this train. Tons of them.
Yeah,
and,
right.
It was really trendy for a long time.
Well, yeah, and it still is. Like I said, a hot button issue in the news. I mean, even all of I think it was 2014 was the big measles outbreak at Disneyland, which is what once again brought it into the
2014?
headlines.
That seems like it was much more recent than that.
Yeah, no,
I
it was.
think it was 2015. It was
2014, 15,
yeah.
right up around there.
Yeah.
That was definitely one of those that brought it back into the national spotlight. And then you started seeing issues at schools and stuff like that. Because it started coming out that, parents were not getting their kids vaccinated.
Well,
and granted,
yeah.
it's in a lot of states, it's not a requirement.
It was
vaccinate.
some history of suspicion, you know what I mean, like some stories of the past and stuff that it made it like a suspicion of vaccines. I think that put a scare into people.
It's fear mongering.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what it
sure.
is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I would actually say all the states require it. It's just that most of the states have some kind of an exemption that you can
Yes,
file. And that's the
exactly.
case in Texas.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
it is
that's
required.
religious.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, to start school, to start kindergarten or first grade, you've got to either provide proof that
Now,
you got these shots.
are we a selective state? Because that's kind of where I stand on it. Just from a point of science, is like if you get a vaccination, even as someone who took allergy shots, I took 2 allergy shots every week, like from the time I was in 2nd grade till graduation and shortly after. And that's all skin scratch tests, and it's one of those, they scratch you and then you come back the next day and let's see what you reacted to.
Right.
So when you do give 3 shots at a time, how do you necessarily tell which side effects could be taking place? When
From which one, right?
Yeah, and that's just my logical concern. I'm not one of the
So,
people that's
is your
anti-vax.
issue that there's more shots given in one visit, or that they put more than one vaccine in one shot?
I'd
Both.
say, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Both.
So let me talk about
I was more on the second one.
let me talk about the more than one vaccines in one shot.
Right.
I hear that a lot.
Sure.
So I monitor the chatter on anti-vax channels pretty much daily.
Gosh,
Oh, yeah.
that's gotta
And
be
so-
just soul crushing.
It is.
It is.
You gotta know
I have
your
to take
enemy.
breaks. I have to take breaks.
used to be part of my job too.
It's like
It
any
is
kind of
horrifying.
conspiracy theory, right?
Yes.
If
Monitor
you
the bad
spend
guy.
too long in the flat Earth groups or
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
chemtrail groups, like you can start to kind of go
Flat
sideways,
earthers.
right?
Off, yeah.
So you gotta
And
take
that's
breaks.
what I want to dispel for people.
So, that gets said a lot. Too many, too soon. You hear it all the time. And the thing is, so part of the problem with vaccines and that issue is that it's a lot of science, which a lot of people don't really understand. And this is one of those points where people are not really seeing the bigger picture. Are we combining more than one vaccine into one shot? Yes. But we're not using the same amount of basically the vaccine substance that we're used to.
Sure.
So overall, kids actually get less of that stuff, even when they're fully vaccinated, than they did back in the 1980s, back in the 1970s,
sure.
because science has gotten better.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so they call that antigen. That's the stuff that creates the immune response in you.
Absolutely.
And that, if you look at it in terms of the amount of actual antigen in a vaccine, it has gone down over time. Yes, we vaccinate for more diseases now because we've developed more vaccines, which, in my opinion, is great.
It's
the less
fantastic.
things that kids can get sick with, the better.
I'm about it.
Right.
Like I said, my concern is the 3 being given at the same time, even in a smaller amount. Should an adverse reaction happen, how can you know exactly which one of those caused the problem?
Well,
because I mean, quite obviously, like I said before the show, adverse reactions happen. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an adverse reactions page on the CDC's website.
Well, that's another complicated one because that's not actually tested all the time. So people can report adverse reactions to something called the VAERS database, which the anti-vaxxers love to point to as being evidence.
But like literally anybody can.
And so actually, someone a few years ago did this like experiment to test it. He entered in to the database that he got a vaccine and he turned into the Incredible Hulk.
Well, that's not.
And it went all the way through.
Like that vaccine.
It went all the way through until someone at the CDC saw it and noticed it, and then contacted him.
Yeah, because it's a wiki. I mean, it's the same thing as going to wiki for your truth.
So
you can't go to wiki for your
and people do. People,
and he wasted somebody's time.
People report things like car accidents.
Absolutely.
They report things like getting into an accident, walking down the stairs. Things like that end up in that database.
You're like, no, it probably is
clearly,
not the vaccine's fault if you tripped.
Exactly. As long as something happens, I think the time frame is something like 6 months. As long as something happens to you within 6 months of getting the vaccine, you're allowed to enter it into this database.
Exactly.
And so you can literally list anything. Now, when it comes to kids,
I've actually got their page from the CDC up. Vaccines and immunizations for parents and adults.
Is there any way that they can tell that the person that is making these comments and stuff, or did they actually get vaccinated? Or could it be just anybody just...
I think there is a way to do that. It's just that they get so many reports. They're not going to do it for every report
reported he was like Incredible Hulk. Can they find out, like, did he really get vaccinated?
Yes, they can.
So they can follow up with an individual. They can follow up an individual case, I think. But, are they going to spend the time to do that with the thousands of reports they get? Right. I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, and the cases are... and granted, the cases, like I said before, they're few and far between. They are not, like, a raging number. It's not a wild number with most of the immunizations.
I think that serious adverse events do happen, but they're very rare.
Like,
they're like 1 in a million.
Like, people have gotten Guillain-Barrés from a flu shot. It has occurred. But it's literally, like you said, it's 1 in 200 something thousand that it may even happen.
Right.
And that's where people they hear it, they associate one and the other.
And if you look at it if you're going to look at it in terms of probabilities, if you look at the probability of getting sick from something if you're not vaccinated, that is going to be way higher
for sure
than having the possibility of getting an adverse reaction from a vaccine.
Well, and see, it's interesting though, because even this last year, we just had our babies, 5 months old, and just this last year, my wife, until her post visit, had never actively seen her OB-GYN's face. She always had a mask on.
Interesting.
And it was due to the fact that she refuses to get the flu shot.
Yeah, I was going to say. That's
the
thing.
And she's someone like me. I don't get a flu shot. I also I don't get the flu though. Like I haven't been. I think
and
I can
everyone
count
says that until
once.
they get the flu, and it's the worst experience
I
ever.
can literally count.
I can
literally count on one hand the number of times I've had it in 10 years.
Yeah, me too.
I rarely get sick.
Me too, same here.
But it is one of those, and I know that they're working on a unified flu shot.
Sure.
But it is one of those that's kind of a crapshoot.
It is, but
because there are a few
even in
different
the worst
flu
years,
shots.
even if it was something like a 20% effectiveness rate, that's better than 0. Yeah. And you're looking at right now, So what they do is they look at what happens in the southern hemisphere with flu. So Australia just went through their flu season, and it was
bad. I heard about that. Yeah, it was bad.
Was awful.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to go and get that flu shot because it's one of those things. Yeah, you're kind of playing the odds, and you haven't gotten the flu, but there's going to be that year where you get the flu.
And it's
probably
awful. I've had it twice. It's awful.
And that's the thing. That's another one where people think they've had the flu, but it's really just a bad cold, or sometimes they talk about the stomach flu. Stomach flu is never the actual flu.
No, that's not the flu.
No, the flu is
the real flu.
That's a stomach bug.
It's knocks you for weeks.
It knocks you down.
So
absolutely,
you know, and then you're going to be looking back and thinking, oh, if I had just gone and gotten that shot,
I can't.
I got my free $5 gift card.
And there are some people. There are some people like Julie who can't get it because she's allergic to eggs.
Yeah.
Well, there's an egg-free shot.
Is there now?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's an egg-free version that you can request.
I should do that because I used to get it all the time, and then like it would swell and swell and swell. And finally,
so is that
last time my doctor was like, "You can't do this anymore," and I never looked into it again.
Yeah,
it's like the flu light shot. The light.
I did the mist
like
once,
beer.
but they don't do that
and then
anymore.
that wasn't effective, so they pulled that.
I tried, but
so anyway, back to what you're talking about. So that's the other problem I think with the anti-vaxxers and the way they see things. You know, they want to look at stuff that happens to kids, and they point to the vaccines as the cause for everything. But if you think about it, I mean, lots of stuff happens to kids in the first 5 years of life.
Oh, yeah, of course, right?
And especially in the beginning,
Very
you're
vulnerable.
getting shots like every 3 to 6 months. So, yeah, it's always going to fall kind of close to a vaccine being given.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, even the MMR vaccine has a window between 15 months and year 3.
Sure.
In which it can be distributed. So at that point, why not spread the 3 out?
Well, I would say because now you're unnecessarily exposing your kids to
taking a chance.
being
Doctor's
infected.
appointments.
Yeah. Well, so you're talking about a spread out schedule.
Yeah.
Definitely that. You're increasing
I'm not saying spread them out by like a year.
Every time I go to the doctor.
Hey, let's give the kid a shot. See what happens, and in a couple weeks, he comes in and gets the next shot.
Extra expense too, just
but
from an
sure.
insurance perspective.
Absolutely. But I personally would be much more willing to pay that expense to have the option to be able to do that.
Well, sure, you can if you can, but
I can tell you that the schedule is very well researched, and there's a reason that the CDC sets it up the way they do. Mm-hmm. Partly because scientifically that's supported, but also, you know, people are people. Yeah. And if you sort of kind of put it on parents to remember to schedule the next appointment and come back and then schedule, they forget. And then years go by, and they get to kindergarten and they realize they didn't actually finish the whole schedule.
Get to school first day tomorrow and you didn't do it.
My mom worked 2 jobs and went to college, and I made it to the doctor every single Friday.
Oh, for your
every single Friday.
But that's not.
But if you was
the reality, you are not every American.
Exactly.
I'm not.
But if it's every 3 months, I mean, how many people can remember to do something every 3 months?
Liam goes to the dentist every 3 months.
Yeah,
like, that's easier.
Like a responsible parent does.
I'm done with
that's the
now.
thing. Like a responsible parent does remember those things. We have Google calendars. We have Google.
Also,
easy
maybe
ways
if they
to do
have
it.
time, if they have like a different work schedule, doctors are not open 24/7.
They are not.
They are not. Like right now, I'm dealing with my 2 kids. They both need to go to the dentist. My dentist is only open Monday through Thursday.
It's tough.
And I've got the little one. He can go whenever he wants, but the older one is in kindergarten. So now I got to get a doctor's notes to miss school. I mean, these are the real life situations.
It is the reality. It is the reality. And
so,
that's just it. Life gets in the way. Life happens.
Exactly. And we see that a lot. If you make it harder for people to get vaccines, they will kind of just not get them. And you see that in like rural parts of Texas where they don't necessarily have access to pediatricians as much as we do here in Austin. Sure. You know, there are issues with not just that, but the cost, like Julie was referring to. I mean, a lot of people have to pay a copay for each visit to the pediatrician, and if you're going to go outside of that regular schedule, they're going to charge you that copay.
So to some people, the copay is an issue. You know, if you have to go multiple times.
I get questions all the time from parents who don't even have money for just like a regular shot at Walgreens for themselves. You know, and they're asking me about low cost, vaccine clinics and stuff. Everyone has a reason.
Exactly.
You know? So part of what I think the plan should be is, yes, raise awareness, get people to understand how important vaccines are, but we are also always working with medical professionals to try and make it easier for people to get vaccinated, because it is so important. And when I'm arguing about people who don't vaccinate, I'm not thinking about those people that can't get it done because of money or because of convenience. I'm really focused on the people who are just spreading the lies and who are spreading the fear.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
And
that's your job.
That is my job.
Right.
Thank you for realizing the fact that that's my job in this conversation.
Same here, me too.
Because
rat number 2.
Because to me, it is an important conversation. It is something like, we have seen measles outbreaks happen at schools here in the last year or two.
Sure.
We saw the measles outbreak at Disney. Something that's interesting to me, though, is that you never hear about measles outbreaks in, like, the religious communities, like Amish, people like that literally just don't even go to the doctor.
Actually, we did have an outbreak up in North Texas a few years ago.
Really? I was not aware of that.
Yeah, it was measles, and I think it was one of those situations where one child came back from, I think, traveling overseas and brought it back. That's the most common way measles gets to the United States, is usually someone traveling overseas unvaccinated, bringing it back, not realizing that they've been infected. And then I think this child went to, like, a church picnic. Yeah. Ended up infecting the entire church.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because measles is it is one of the worst in terms of infectiousness.
Yeah.
Like, it hangs in the air for hours.
I mean more in terms of, like, Amish communities, things like that. People that literally just live out in the country and go.
I would say Amish people maybe don't have the exposure, but you definitely, any outbreak, it's a kind of different story. Like what happened in Minnesota this past year, that's a completely unique story, right? Yeah. That has to do with the whole refugee community and being preyed upon by the anti-vaxxers.
Right.
Well, and not just that, but that in and of itself is a huge issue right now. Just talking about vaccination, is even TB and stuff like that coming in with the refugees, because they haven't had time to go through full process.
Now you're going down a path that I actually don't think is factually correct. The kids that got sick, they weren't themselves refugees. They were kids of refugees. They were American-born citizens. Mm-hmm. They just happened to be children of refugees, but they were fully on American soil their whole lives. It's just that they were convinced, their parents were convinced by the anti-vaxxer organizations,
not to vaccinate
their kids.
Well, no, these are people that I'm talking about that came over as refugees that had TB.
They have not found any kind of spike based on that.
Yeah. No, it's actually kind of one of those things that I see a lot too in the forums. They want to blame illegal immigrants.
It's like a red herring.
But in actuality, in most of the countries outside of the U.S., the vaccination rate is higher.
Yep.
Like Mexico is much higher than the U.S. overall because they don't want to risk their kids getting sick. If they're offered a vaccination, they're going to take it. They know what could happen.
Right.
But they did actually put a temporary ban for a while on the Gardasil shot in Mexico, and I know that there are numerous countries under UN and World Health Auspice that have said, like, we will not distribute the Gardasil shot.
Governments are,
because of the studies that were done in Mexico that showed people that were sterilized under a certain age.
HPV vaccine, Gardasil, that is honestly one of the most researched in terms of safety, and it is incredibly safe. It is safer than almost any other vaccine out there. And I would just say that governments are not infallible. They can make errors in judgment as well. Right? I mean, we all know that. So, sure, there's been a lot of sort of suspicion about Gardasil, but every time they do a study, it comes out really effective, really safe. Something that, in my opinion, is amazing because it prevents cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I don't really understand why people have such a hard time with it. I think with Gardasil especially, it really comes down to people being afraid of accepting that their kids are going to have sex someday.
Yes, I think you're right. And it's a women's issue more than anything, and people aren't
But we're seeing it in men, right? I mean, the boys' vaccination rate is lower than girls, and now we're seeing a rise in the oropharyngeal cancers.
Well, and I think most of the panic came out when the study came out that there were people who had had the side effect of sterilization from the early studies in the shot. And it was the early release of it. It wasn't the stuff that exists now and everything else. It was many, many years ago. I want to say 2010, something like that this study was done. And that's what most of the countries like Japan and people like that who have opted out of it are basing their decision on. But,
yes. There were those reports. I don't think that they established any actual causation. I think that they haven't been able to reproduce that. It's just like what we're talking about the MMR. I mean, if someone wants to see a connection, they're going to see it. But it doesn't mean the science supports it. Yeah. And one study doesn't mean that A caused B.
Right, exactly. I have one friend who had one situation. That doesn't actually mean that because your friend had this experience, it had anything to do with what your friend thinks that this experience was about.
Absolutely.
I was just talking to my friend, she made me break out in full body hives, but that's a whole nother story because I was so upset. But I told her that you were coming on the show, and she was talking about how her friend's kid ended up not autistic, nonverbal.
They blame a lot of that, and there's
the MMR.
Okay,
so I was like, well, what was the story leading up to it? And she said, well, he had a high fever for 12 days, and then went to the doctor, and they still gave him the shot. And I was like, well, did they tell the doctor that the kid had a fever for 12 days? And well, I don't think so. Right. I was like, well, so I think that your friend had a virus, or your friend's baby, and it damaged the child because 12 days with a 2-year-old or 18-month-old with 105 fever. Unfortunately, that's going to do damage on anybody.
I had 108 when I was less than a year with spinal meningitis.
Jeez. Right, exactly. If something had come from
that's literally boiling your brain. I'm pretty lucky to be the whippersnapper that I am.
You were 4 degrees over boiling in the brain.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, autism, they've done the studies, and unfortunately, children can appear to be normal, although if you're trained to look for signs, you can see them pretty early.
Well, and that's why they call it the spectrum.
Regress.
There's a spectrum of autism.
And I got to tell you, a lot of the autistics that I work with and know, they hate the fact that people are still hammering away at this vaccine connection that doesn't exist.
Sure.
It literally just makes them upset because, first of all, the anti-vaxxers like to talk about them as if they're damaged, which just pisses them off.
Right. Wouldn't you rather that your child was
I'd rather my kid die than be autistic. Is basically which is terrible.
Which is horrifying.
Yeah, but, if you really want to work on autism, let's put that money and that effort towards some new research, something that hasn't been disproven over and over and over again, that wasn't put forth by a guy that had his medical license taken away from him, that
admitted that he did it,
performed unethical procedures on children, that left his country to come here to Austin.
And I would quite honestly point the finger much more at chemicals in our environment, things like that.
I think the research pretty much shows it's got a big genetic component.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're talking about things like Roundup in your food for generations, you will start.
Well, even Subway had plastic in their bread. I mean,
that doesn't necessarily cause genetic mutation, but we do know that Roundup in water will do that with amphibians.
And the thing about autism, I mean, we've changed the definition, so I get asked that a lot too. Why is the rate going up? It's not actually going up. It's that we diagnose more people now as autistic, whereas in the past we would have just called them eccentric or kind of quirky.
Well, I mean, of course, in the 40s, it was an unknown of term because it was something that we didn't explore. In the 70s was when we really started making this definition because that's when eugenics laws were dropped in America. Oddly enough, If you start looking at when the studies on autism were done, which was right up around 78, 77 is when eugenics laws stopped being dropped across America, which is when they said people with an IQ lower than this cannot have sex, they must be sterilized. And even Texas had eugenics laws in place. It was kind of a freaky thing.
It plays a part in that suspicion. It plays a part in that suspicion.
Well, and it was the fact of, people of below a certain IQ, what we would now consider on the lower end of the autistic scale, stuff like that.
Or the government that get, the vaccines with syphilis and stuff like that. I mean, it's a part of the
Tuskegee experiments definitely happened.
Is there a syphilis vaccine? Anymore? Syphilis isn't a thing anymore, right?
Yes, it is.
It is still a thing.
It is. It is still a horrifying thing.
I had to get tested
in many parts of the world.
It's other. I think it's other bad things that tarnish or taint.
Well, and that's just it.
Just for the syphilis, though, and the doctors even.
That is part of the problem, yes, Stephen, because things get declassified. People find out that the Tuskegee experiments happened. The U.S. government did.
It's a loss of trust in trusting what they're getting.
They did inject hundreds of young African American soldiers in the army with syphilis. And that's where a lot of the vaxxers get their circle from. Is the fact that, hey, this came right out of that.
Not vaxxers.
I don't proclaim that the government is perfect. I don't think that pharmaceutical companies are angels, but vaccines are one of the most amazing things we've come up with as a human society.
Absolutely.
And they prevented millions of deaths.
Exactly.
We don't have polio anymore. That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and
I totally agree. I just think that the facts of in the past of the history that it tarnishes a good thing. Somebody that the bad acts of before of the history tarnishes now what's trying to be done that's good, that people remember or hear of. They're like, oh, that's a fact. Oh, that really happened. Oh, and it kind of scares them.
Because people use it for negative purposes.
And we got to get over that hump.
Right.
We do, and we got to, I think, go back to a time where we can look at facts and recognize them as facts, and not
use
the good old days.
Actually, use it as data,
and not treat science as something that's inherently politically biased or that can be changed based on who's researching it.
Should be politically biased in any way, shape, or form. Science is science. It's fact.
Science,
It's data.
And I look at this. You just mentioned the flu mist vaccine, right? That's a good example. They could have continued to make millions of dollars on the flu mist vaccine, but they stopped because it wasn't effective, and they pulled it. Yeah. When the evidence is there, CDC, scientists, researchers, they're willing to admit that something isn't working and change it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well,
keep moving forward.
In a modern sense, yes. Not so much for a while, because they fought the whole thimerosal thing for a long time. I shouldn't have said millions, because they really don't actually make that much on vaccines. that's another myth out there. But anyway, exactly. The point is that scientists... It's definitely not big pharma. And that's what most people don't realize is it's not big pharma, folks. It's not like they're trying to keep a cancer drug off the shelf. But
what's the alternative? That's my question.
What's the alternative?
No.
Do you want to trust some guy creating a vaccine in his garage?
There is.
Or would you rather?
There is also the question, though, of most drugs going on the shelf through big pharma go through more of a process than vaccines do.
That's actually not true.
Vaccines
are heavily tested for safety.
No, well, I know that.
Yeah.
But they don't go through the double, triple blind studies, everything.
Because it's unethical.
7 years, I think it is.
It is unethical. You can't take a room full of kids and say, we're all just going to take a chance and give half of you the vaccine and half of you not,
half
and
of you
see
might
what
actually
happens.
get the measles.
It's not that they necessarily do it with kids,
but
they
double blind.
Well, yeah, but they absolutely do it to soldiers.
I've done a lot of double blinds. Really,
that's like in their paperwork that they're allowed to do
that. I've done it.
I'm not going to argue that with you, but I will say that within the confines of what's ethically appropriate, vaccines are heavily tested for safety.
Well, and they do have age restrictions, like you were saying with the MMR, is 18 months to 3 years old. Yeah. They're not going to do a blind test on a 20-month-old and not give them the measles vaccine.
Right.
And then send him to daycare with Johnny Measles and then a kid with cancer.
But you're gonna say
But
Johnny
what we do have are millions of people all over the world who have gotten their vaccines and are fine.
And then fine, right?
Yeah.
Most of us, all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, in this room, I think you're probably vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean, I've got that old little book. It's falling apart, though. You know,
the little blue book?
When you're a kid,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's old as me, so it's almost dust. So you fold it out, and like Chris was saying, it was like individual back then. It was like all line. You got this date, and all that crap like that.
Yep.
Or I think yours is like that, hopefully, or somewhere.
And they've done surveys, like you brought up Gardasil.
Book.
They've done surveys. Millions of doses of Gardasil have been given out by now. And
did you think it was a good idea when Perry was mandating that or trying to for the girls of a certain age getting that?
In a way, yes. In another way, I don't generally get political.
Right.
I'm not gonna endorse people.
Yeah, that is a
anything,
good
but it's how do I feel about anyone that's a celebrity really weighing in? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I do think that the anti-vax thing it was a trend. I don't know about now if it's as much of a trend. I think now it's more fringe people that are supporting it. But I'm happy when people use their fame and celebrityness to show that they're vaccinating and everything's fine. I mean, that's what we need really more of.
Yeah,
is to
like
find
Mila
these
Kunis'
stories
kids.
of,
Look at them with their shots. They're good now.
Exactly. The quote-unquote vaccine injury stories are all over the internet. But how many people take the time, just regular people, take the time to write on their Facebook page, got my shots, nothing happened.
Or here's a picture of Liam. He's still healthy because he was vaccinated as a toddler.
I do it because this is what I am passionate about. But most people, it's just part of their daily lives. That's actually one of my biggest uphill battles is really that while most people still vaccinate, it's not important to them. It's not on the level of fighting about reproductive rights. It's not on the level of fighting about gun safety. This is a topic that most people, if you talk to them, they take it for granted. And if they don't have kids, they don't know what's happening at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is really just trying to make people aware. Talking, having conversations. I'll talk to anyone anytime about it.
How about this, Jinny? What's the wildest story that you've heard from somebody that their reason and why they're scared to take the shot? Do you have one?
In real life?
Yeah.
Person to person? I don't really, they don't talk to me.
The wildest story.
But I have heard of and seen on the internet stories of, the wildest thing. Things about even if you have an unvaccinated baby, they might still get a vaccine injury because their parents were vaccinated.
Oh wow!
What? Yeah.
So the vaccines,
it altered their genetics
or whatever. Yeah, it's just going with them.
I've also seen recently. So the Vaxxed bus came through to Houston, which was terrible on their part because they did it right after Hurricane Harvey, which we all thought was pretty
timing.
What the
shady in terms of timing, but they did it, and even their own supporters were kind of, throwing some shade because it was so close after the hurricane, and one of the people wrote "Is this really the best thing to do after a geoengineered hurricane?" I was like, "Oh, you were so close."
Oh man,
so close.
Close.
Then you just went, okay.
You went there.
But yeah, they have those kinds of people. One of the reasons I get really worked up about it is not just in general, to protect my own kids from something like a measles outbreak, but the people that don't vaccinate, the really diehard ones, especially if they have children they believe were injured in some way. They will do some really awful things to their kids in an effort to cure them. So there's something called bleach therapy.
What?
Yeah.
It's pretty common, not common I wouldn't say, but it's something that's talked about in some of the fringe autism circles. And it was based on a book written by someone who has no medical degree or anything. And he sells solution though. So it's something, all the
Ron Hubbard did.
they got their little wine store. You put your kids these two liquids, and in the body it comes in basically bleach, because their whole theory is that it's
What?
gut parasites that are causing the autism, and so that will kill them. And then what happens is the kids will poop. Their intestinal lining is basically being shed, and then they're saying, "Oh, look at the work that came out. It's working."
It's not
it's all the alternative, therapies that are filling in the spaces for people who don't vaccinate. That's what really, when I think about it, what makes me get sort of worked up. That's what really gets to me. Adults, adults are going to do things. They're going to do things, and I can't control that. But once you're affecting kids, that's a different story.
Yeah, once you're affecting somebody who can't make the decision for themselves.
Yeah.
And
takes it to another
you're
level.
The steward
Absolutely.
of them. Yeah, and there are tons of stories on both sides of the table.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Vioxx is an example.
Sure.
Where
I've heard of that.
Where that was one
that was a terrible thing that happened.
It was a horrible example.
Like I said, I don't think pharmaceutical companies are angels. I'm not here to say that they've never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
But when it comes to vaccines, especially the ones that are on the schedule, there's a reason they're on the schedule, and it's well supported by science and by evidence. So, and to me, it is one of the decisions as a parent. You're not just affecting your own kids; you're affecting my kids. Yeah. There are schools in Texas that are below the percentage needed to be protected from a measles outbreak.
Yeah.
So,
Yikes.
like I said,
I believe that. Yeah.
So that's one of the things I deal with. Statewide, we have a pretty high vaccination rate on paper. But if you look at an individual school or an individual neighborhood, it's a different story. If you get into the weeds with like a really kind of strong anti-vax community, you're going to have schools that are below 95%, sometimes below 90%.
And are those mostly the rural areas, or?
In Texas, not really, actually. It's we have a couple hot spots. Austin is one. Mostly from people who want to be natural and crunchy.
Oh, okay.
But up in North Texas, like Fort
I can see
Worth,
hipsters
Denton,
falling in there.
They are more into it because they are diehard Tea Partiers, and they don't want anyone telling them what to do with their kids.
Right.
It's a libertarian Tea Party kind of angle.
Yeah.
So it seems like Austin would have a lot of those right? Like with the natural people, right?
Well, much more with the natural people.
More with the natural people here. But it's what
Yeah.
makes vaccines kind of a weird thing. It's
I never thought of it that
bipartisan.
way. Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
It's not left or right. It's the extremes on both sides that are anti-vax.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
They're on both ends.
Yeah. And here in Texas, it's the sort of Tea Partier types that are really the ones kind of running things right now.
Right.
They're the ones that created their own PAC, and they have they're supporting various candidates and doing all kinds of stuff for them. And they've got a lot of I think support from some organizations in the background. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, helping them with their strategy and their
way.
messaging and stuff. But I'm very proud of what we've accomplished in the short time we've been around. And I think we made a huge difference this last legislative session.
And that's a huge accomplishment.
So
in 2 years.
Well, and it's something that's very, very hard to bring awareness to.
Yes. For all the reasons we just talked about.
Because of the reasons that we just talked about. Just trying to dispel the myths behind it. There's
so many. I always say it's like an onion.
It is.
When you're arguing with an anti-vaxxer online, they'll say one thing, and you're like, well, actually, that's not true.
You know what?
They're like, oh, well, then there's this other thing. And they just keep going and keep going. And it just goes on and on.
You know what I've been using a lot of lately is this analogy or whatever it is that, how, this gas scare that happened on social media, it takes one post for somebody to freak out or believe, and then it just catches on like wildfire sometimes,
and then all of a sudden you're on gas for no reason.
And then they totally believe that.
I think that's called going viral, Steve.
Oh, really? Well, shoot! I better get a shot.
No pun intended with the show, but I do believe that's called going viral.
I need a shot.
And that's just it.
Take a shot of that whiskey, though.
We do need this information to go viral. We do need people to understand the reasoning behind getting vaccinated, the importance behind.
Well, and getting people to be, motivated to do something.
Yeah.
Not just sit around their dinner table and be like, oh yeah.
That's the hard part. It's the motivation part.
You should totally vaccinate. You're right.
Well,
but actually, I need people to do things like call their reps when it's time. I need people to show up at the Capitol.
Not just that. I think that as a society, we've gotten away from a point. Today was a prime example. My wife and I went to the bank today, and she became a signer on the LLC account.
Nice.
And got her own personal account. And we went and signed in to see my banker. My banker.
Not Amy Spanker?
No. Well, I mean, the person who started the...
Julie's going to pick that one out.
The person who started the HC Universal LLC bank account.
Sure.
My business banker.
Yeah.
There was a point in time where you had a banker. And you went in and you saw your banker.
know this guy. Yeah.
You saw a pharmacist.
Right.
And the pharmacist knew you.
Like, hey, what's up?
And he knew your family. And he knew that you had the flu 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And he knew, like, what medications you took.
Sure.
And hey, you know, I know your doctor prescribed this, but we may want to talk to him because I don't know if he's thinking about these other 4 meds over here. Mm-hmm. You know, and we've literally gotten to a point, even with medicine, even with our doctors, to where... I mean, good God, my mom goes to see her doctor and doesn't even see her doctor.
It's a loss of humanity, kind of, in a way.
My broken ankle, I never saw a doctor.
The connection, the face-to-faceness.
Well, and it's the fact of, wait a minute, you've had this doctor who has specifically handled your case for 5 years, and now suddenly other people are coming in and talking to you about it. Like, they don't know the actual full history. And I think a lot of people...
I will tell you the diehard anti-vaxxers, they are taking advantage of that. They are lying when they do things like end up in the ER. They are not telling people that they haven't been vaccinated. You see stories about that all the time. They are getting... in like California, where they passed SB 277, which removed the personal exemption, they're getting doctors who are, in my opinion, unethical to sign these exemptions.
And say that they're doing it
they're saying that they have these adverse reactions or whatever, and they're not true.
So are the doctors lying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
There's a whole
cow.
underground network of them.
That should jeopardize their license.
You know,
it should, absolutely.
Well, yeah,
it should.
Yeah, and you know, they will go to those lengths to avoid it. And all they're doing is, you know, complicating things. If their kids are sick and in the ER, wouldn't you want the staff there to know?
Well, what I'm getting to the point of is it's no longer the fact of, like, when I was a kid, I saw Robert Maidenberg every Friday. Yeah. I saw my doctor. And,
I understand what you're saying, but we can't go back to that time.
We can't, unfortunately.
Has
with
the same doctor. I mean, he's seen the same doctor since we moved to Texas.
Exactly.
Sure.
And that's what I'm saying.
But you might move.
Absolutely. But medical records are all online now. Like, it's fine.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that someone
should be a personal connection.
Someone in that situation, like me, going to Robert Maidenberg and trusting him for my whole life, I had no problems whatsoever telling Robert Maidenberg any issue that I had going on.
Sure.
Or asking him any question regarding a procedure he was about to do to me. A lot of people are intimidated by a doctor. They may not be willing to, number one, ask the question about their baby.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They because, hey, like, I'll admit, I'm on O-Care with my wife. We're on ACA. And there is a single doctor in the city of Austin for pediatrics.
That would do that.
A single.
Oh, wow.
One.
Just one.
There is one OB-GYN office. One.
I think
for all of Austin.
I think there's always room for improvement.
I know
you
that.
know, I just did a webinar for doctors to teach them a little bit about how to talk to vaccine hesitant parents, you know. Because they don't, you know, pediatricians, for the most part, there are a few that are really active, but a lot of them, they don't go on Facebook.
Right.
They don't see
the
stuff that's being said.
Right.
They think, oh, well, if I just show them the facts, they're going to understand, and then they'll vaccinate. I'm
well,
like, you don't know what it's like out there.
Not just that. Like I said, the reticence of the parents. If you're being flipped from doctor to doctor year after year.
Well, and if you're just sitting on Facebook all the time, having these people tell you that you're going to injure your kids by getting them vaccinated, you know, no matter what, if you see that all day,
it's going to get in there a little bit. And it's
because I've been talking about that a lot. I've literally got Thinking Deeply episode coming out about that this week, about the negative cycle of the human brain and the
negative feedback.
We are not naturally logical people.
Well,
we are emotion driven. We have gut feelings.
It's not just that.
People are
it's not just that. Our brain is literally wired to learn from negative activity
and to fear things.
It's learned. It's wired to learn hot.
Yeah,
don't
and in
ever
most
touch
cases,
that again.
That's going to save you.
Right.
But in these kind of situations, it
that's
works
why
against you.
That's the problem, is that media using that. All of these
I think what you're getting at is
that.
what I deal with.
Exactly.
It's a multifaceted problem, right? Your relationship with your doctor.
It's not just a one-way situation.
Yeah, there's no one answer.
That's just it.
Just like there's no one anti-vaxxer myth out there, there's no one problem that if I solved it, we would have everyone vaccinated.
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. It's what makes it hard. I can't just sit down and be like, in 5 minutes, here's my spiel. Now you totally get it, right?
I mean, almost impossible.
Exactly.
Because you're dealing with the reticence of parents going from doctor to doctor, especially with the shifting healthcare system right now.
I mean, when I meet a parent who is actually truly just vaccine hesitant, I think the most important thing that anyone can do is just find out their reasons and find out their individual story.
That's it.
Why do you think that? What are your questions? Tell me what have you seen online?
What are your concerns?
Are there friends telling you this? Is it your family members? And really kind of get to know them so that you can actually help them.
Well,
that genuineness is
Immunize Texas. Does that kind of have the tools, or does it have availability, or is there like an email or something like?
Yeah.
Let's say I'm sitting down and rather than break into a full body hives, I could be like, well, this is wrong,
because
of whatever, but in a nice way, like. I do. I have really terrible allergies
you should
anyway.
Check into a vaccine for that.
I get that too.
But like,
I got one. It's called Whiskey right over there.
Is there a good
if you go to the Immunize Texas website, you can find an email contact form. And you can reach out. I'm pretty much the one that's reading all that.
Okay.
Nice.
So I will be the
I
one answering
when I emailed, and I was like, it's actually you.
Yeah, it is absolutely 100% me. And I'm happy to help people. I get inquiries all the time. I'm not an expert, that's the thing. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I am literally just a concerned citizen.
You didn't even claim to play one on TV.
I do not. But I am tapped into the community. I can get you the articles that you might want to see. I can get you the data that you might need. We can have a meaningful discussion. All the time when I have people who reach out to me, I'll schedule a phone call and sit down and talk to them. I think that is part of connecting to the community is actually just talking one-on-one with people, and I think it helps a lot.
Well, and that's what I was getting to with the doctors is the concept of the family practitioner.
A lot of that interaction face-to-face.
The concept, like, I saw my doctor from the time I was 5 until I was 25.
Yeah. That's an inherent problem, with the way our healthcare works, right?
And that
Even
started,
if you stay in the same city,
that started in the late. That started in the late '80s with HMOs, where that stopped.
Sure.
And that's a whole different.
And I can't do a whole lot about that. But
that's a whole different endemic problem that
Come on,
leads
Jinny,
to where we
are. Let me get on that. I'll add it to the to-do list.
You can get a millionaire.
Cause number 2.
$1 million investment from some guy just by sitting down and talking to him, rather than him reading your spiel on a post or something. You know what I mean? Because it's that genuineness that is right in front of you in the face of a person and the voice, and you're
that's
speaking
why
to them,
we try to go to the Capitol. My group, our focus is really, I'm not going to sit there and argue with an anti-vaxxer all day, because that is pointless and a waste of time. But I can go to the Capitol, I can talk to representatives, I can talk to state senators and tell them why it's important to protect our children from vaccine-preventable diseases and the things that they can do to help. And, it's a slow process. As you guys probably know, Texas legislature does not move very quickly. Nope. But I think we're making some progress,
it's a long and powerful train.
Yeah. And it was for a long time not a conversation that the community was involved in, and that's what I bring to the table.
Well,
and they want to hear it.
And the thing is, it is something that people want to hear now. Unfortunately, it is one of those it's a cause that has to happen when the time is right, because unfortunately, people don't want to hear about a lot of causes. They really don't.
Yeah.
And it's sad the oblivion that people want to live in and will willfully live in on a daily basis.
But I gotta tell you, Texas is slated to be potentially the next big measles outbreak, like on the level of Disneyland, because our vaccination rates. So we had the loophole created in 2003 for the personal exemption, the conscientious exemption. And it has gone up to, it was started like the first year, maybe 3,000 conscientious exemptions were filed. Last year, the school year, we had 52,700.
Oh my gosh.
What's that mean, the conscientious? What's that mean?
So it's not medically based. So in Texas, you can either get an exemption for a medical reason from your doctor, or you can just file this piece of paper that says, I don't want to have my kids vaccinated for reasons of conscience.
Oh, okay.
And it can be anything. We don't have a separate religious one.
Right.
So it's all just folded all into
kind of
that.
goes together. When I had the preschool, I had one
Ah.
family with that. And it was basically like they never went to school because I said, okay, but if anybody gets sick for any reason, you can't be here because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So be like, well, we've got a chickenpox thing. Like, and if you're vaccinated with chickenpox, it comes out as a cold. So if there was a cold and a rash, I'd be like, it could be the chickenpox. You
gotta
can't
go.
be here.
Yeah.
Like, so it came to the point where they were like, well, what's the point of even going to school? I'm like, there isn't one vaccinate your kid. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They didn't. They just homeschooled. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you can be here, not at all, and still pay me, or you can figure out what it is about it that's really upsetting you.
And you'll see, like I said earlier, you know, some neighborhoods, some communities, they're very strongly anti-vax, and their numbers are very low. You know, they are well below what's needed to protect the kids from an outbreak. And then you look at private schools, and it's even worse. So, like here, especially in Austin, you see like there's one school near me. You don't have to look very hard to find it, but I think their exemption rate is like 46%.
Oy.
So that's. Now, it's not necessarily broken down by what vaccines, but, you know, already that number to me is just not okay. I am not okay with that.
Unacceptable.
It scares me.
Unacceptable.
And it's not just the kids, right? These are people that are going to be at your grocery store. They're going to be at the park. Their kids are going to be playing next to yours, you know.
Well, granted, I mean, most of these people have probably already been vaccinated. It's their kids that haven't been.
Yeah.
Right, that's the thing too. Like if
Like,
we're all benefiting
we're-
from our
we're
herd
all
immunity,
vaccinated
why
here.
would we
Yeah.
not do the
At this
same thing
table.
for our
Of
children?
course.
We're
Because
all
most people
fine.
don't remember. Most people
Right.
have never seen a real case of measles.
Yeah.
A lot of the anti-vaxxers say that it's just like the common cold, nothing to worry about.
That's like a lot of history.
Haven't they ever seen Little Women?
You talked about some of the weirdest stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
One of the big things going on right now, you know, when we talk about polio being eradicated, there are
Right.
people that claim that polio hasn't been eradicated. It's just been renamed to other things. And that's how the government has hidden it.
Yikes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and granted, hey, there's superbugs all the day is long now. Where I want to say they just found like the super flu in China that is like immune to all known antibacterial.
That'll
like,
happen.
We can't stop it.
I've told you about swine
Yeah.
flu, right? That
Oh,
we
well,
were the Agent 1 was my family. My mom took a cruise,
Oh.
and her boat was the one that brought it back, and then she babysat Jillian, Liam, and Michaela.
Wow.
And they went to Cowan, and they traced it back. We brought the swine flu to Texas.
That's your claim to fame.
Yeah,
All right.
we're sorry. We didn't know. By the time they were like, hey, if anybody's been on this particular ship and they've done this thing, like, you need to say something, it was too late. So we're like, well, we have, but, like, they're already healthy again. Like,
You were
Well, and that's
You
were the
That's-
news story.
the thing is,
us.
that's a danger that's more real than we know now because there are things that are crossing the boundary that have not crossed before.
And if you look at the demographics, the new anti-vaxxers, they are almost all white and wealthy.
right, of course, because they're a
And
little
they are
bit
the ones that
sheltered.
are going to be doing overseas travel. And they are also the ones that, you know, they're privileged.
They
They
can
think
afford
that if
the
their
crazy
kids
medical care if they
exactly,
need
they
it.
think if their kids get sick, you know, in the back of their minds, I have no doubt they're thinking, well, I can afford to have my kid airlift to
Figure out what it
you
is
know,
that
exactly,
the problem is.
Huh.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So, you know, it's a tough problem. You can't
It is.
stop people from flying all over the world.
You can't.
You know.
Why is it we live in
But,
this day and age,
but-
though, I think, is why we got the MMR thing still going on and not an actual eradication of these things that have been around forever, it seems.
Well, that's
you know what I
what
mean?
the
With
vaccine
technology
is.
and
I mean-
things that we have, scientists, chemists, hell, Albert Einstein, of course, we had other people.
I think
we
what
haven't
he's
been
saying
smart
is
enough to
the
eradicate these things.
if the polio vaccine has all but eradicated polio, why is it that we still have to worry about measles?
Right.
So, for a long time, we didn't have endemic measles in the United States, meaning we didn't have measles originating from the U.S.
Well, and I saw that it was
It's almost always coming
cured
from
in,
out of
was
the
it
country.
Australia?
Oh, out of
New
the
Zealand.
New Zealand.
New Zealand
They
actually
cured
just
it.
got
Wow.
declared as having no endemic measles. So it is possible, but you have things like what's happening now. People not getting vaccinated. They travel over to, say, like Romania or Italy or France, where they also have a strong anti-vax movement. They come back. They don't know they're sick, like you were talking about with this swine flu.
I guess that explains it.
Yeah. And it spreads. It's, germs are invisible. You can't see them.
I knew there was a simple explanation for my question.
Yeah. Yes. And then other things like mumps, we see a lot of mumps happening right now, and that's a mystery. They're working on that. Part of it is the vaccine's just not as effective as the measles one. It's like 70 to 75% effective. So that means even if you've been vaccinated, you might get the mumps.
Right.
But does that mean you shouldn't get vaccinated? No, because it's
75%.
still helping
70
to 75% of the people. So
exactly.
And there seems to be a cycle. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Again, it's science. Not everyone is trained in it. It's hard to wrap your head around. It makes it difficult for me to kind of get it, across, because anti-vaxxers love to pick like one small thing and ignore the rest of it, right?
Right.
So they'll go around saying, well, everyone who has mumps right now is vaccinated. Well, yeah, except that's because most people haven't vaccinated, so if you take 75% of that, then the 25% of, Anyway, it's just math. But
and
math is hard.
Let's say that 12,000 people have the mumps. There's 300 million people in this country, and 12,000 of them have the mumps.
We still prevented hundreds of thousands of cases of mumps.
Really, it's really good odds.
So
my mathing is not on point right now, but good odds.
Yes. Yeah. So it's, like everything we talked about tonight, there's side after side after side.
Well, and the idea is that you do have to look at all sides. You do have to, even you, like you said, as horrible as it is, you have to keep up with the anti-vaxxer movement.
Sure.
Or the vaxxer movement.
Sometimes we call them pro-diseasers.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just call them vaxxers because they're people that don't want vaccines. I don't know. But
Vaxholes.
There you go.
There you go. I've seen that.
It is one of those that you have to keep up with everything. And that's the point of all of this, is the fact that data is data. Facts don't lie. Facts have no agenda. Facts, they don't skew one way or another. They're just a fact.
And at the very least, even if you don't have the time, which I understand, not everyone can read science studies. I don't read the scientific studies because I'm not a scientist. But, what's happened to our world where we don't trust the doctors and the researchers and the scientists? I'm not saying you have to trust one individual, but when the consensus, when the majority, vast majority of them are saying
that this
is
the right thing.
Well, and I think, once again, I think it's what Steve was saying a while ago. When you get to the point of distrust, when you get to the point of corruption, when you get to the point of opioid epidemic in America, because people are just passing it out.
Doctors either.
That
is just a reality. But it doesn't mean I look at all doctors and think, well, you're all liars and you're all bad people.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that do, though.
I understand that.
And it's the same way whether it's red team, blue team.
But I don't understand why it has such an importance when it comes to like medicine and science. I've had bad experiences with mechanics. I'm not going to try to fix my own car.
Right.
I've had people try to rip me off and try to tell me that something was broken that wasn't actually broken.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to take my car to a mechanic.
Sure.
The overwhelming consensus is that most mechanics can fix your car.
Yeah.
So we're going to listen to that.
A few dishonest
and then
ones,
you'll find the one that got rated by whatever, you don't take your car there.
Yeah.
That's the same with the doctor. If you've got I had one doctor the day that I gave birth came in my hospital room and gave me birth control and was like, well, let's not make this mistake again.
Okay.
I never saw that doctor again, and we were done. And I was like, thank you.
That's an okay decision to make.
I'm 23. I'm an adult. I can have a kid. I look 12, so I think she thought I was a baby. But
then you didn't go home and Google delivering a baby and think, well, if I ever get pregnant again, I'll just do it myself.
Right, exactly. That's fine. I'm going to keep it in next time. That's better.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to be my doctor anymore.
So that's, I get what you're saying. Yes, people have bad experiences. I've had bad experiences. I don't think there's really anyone that I know that hasn't. That's just again, I have to deal with the world the way it is. I can't sit here and hope for idealistic, perfect Zen everything. A utopia, I guess is what I'm looking at. But at the same time, they want to say that there isn't this evidence. It is there. They just don't want to see it. They want to say that that we've been ignoring these vaccine injuries. No. We look at them and we point out all the other things that have been happening or going on the side, or the actual causes. But they don't want to hear it. They want to stick with it was the vaccine.
Well,
so, and at a certain point, what can we do?
We've talked about that in so many different ways on this show. The concept of cognitive dissonance.
Sure.
That even when you are presented,
bias, the whole thing.
Even when you are presented with evidence to the contrary of what you believe it so vehemently, that you will fight for what you believe despite the evidence.
Well, and I think a lot of these hot button movements, these hot topic movements, I think for a diehard anti-vaxxer, it is their identity.
It is.
I think that's the biggest reason why they will never admit
and that's
that they
just
might be wrong.
And that's whether it's this topic, whether it's polarizing political things.
Exactly.
All of it. So deep.
All of it.
How do you come back from that?
Exactly. How do you keep an open mind to where you can look at data as pure naked data and strip your personal opinion away from it? Strip it. It's cold. It's heartless. Believe me, I understand that.
That's the majority rules.
But that's science.
Well,
yeah.
But if
that's
you think the whole game
works.
is rigged,
Yeah.
And then my question is, well, what's the alternative? And they don't have a good answer.
Certain
who's going to fund these studies? If you don't want to take it from a university, or you don't want to take it because some pharmaceutical company paid for 10% of it, because then they're pharma shills. What's left?
And hey,
who's going to do it then?
It does happen. Sure. Even Sanjay Gupta came out in the last year and said that his stance on medical marijuana is totally unfounded. He has completely reversed it. He had no idea that the studies that were being provided to him were being provided by people whose vested interests were against medical marijuana.
Sure.
These things do happen.
Yeah.
It does happen.
I agree.
It happens much more in the big pharma world than it does in the mid-vax world, though, folks.
But you can even show them, they don't make any money off vaccines.
They
always say that there's a whole bunch of money they're making.
No, because they don't.
They would make so much more if they actually let the diseases happen and then charge you an arm and a leg for the treatment.
Right.
Exactly.
But they don't want 30%.
If they were charging
to die.
If they were charging you for just quinine, here's some quinine pills to keep you.
Leeches.
It's cool. You got malaria. It's all right.
Here's tonic water and these
here's some
leeches.
absinthe and some quinine.
Some cocaine.
You're gonna be all right.
You're gonna be
fine. You'll be fine. But we're in a situation where we have to create incentives, really, for a lot of these pharmaceutical companies to keep making vaccines, because it is not.
Oh, okay. So it does come into play.
Please keep us alive, pharmaceutical companies.
Well, not just that, but also developing new ones. I mean, there's not
well,
always
because
God knows what I've taken.
of the fact, we have to subsidize them to make cures because there's no money in the cure.
Yeah.
The money is
the preventative.
The money is in the preventative. It's not in the cure. So we have to subsidize them to make cures for stuff, and that's a mind-boggling situation to me.
That number of money
in and of itself. That is the way that it has to, and so many people don't realize that that's the way it has to happen. If it didn't happen that way, we
people
could
bring up
get
the
so
vaccine
much
court.
more.
Have you guys heard about the vaccine court?
Yes.
So
really?
when you get a vaccine, an actual adverse event, and you want to take it to court, there's a special vaccine court.
Yep.
And the anti-vaxxers like to point it out all the time, how much money it's paid out, all that stuff.
Right.
But they don't realize it was actually created by anti-vaxxers. And it was sort of a deal that was set up because without it, the vaccine companies were not going to continue making vaccines. They wanted basically to have a way to keep doing what they're doing, put the money into this vaccine court that would handle all the claims.
And are they actually paying out money?
Instead of being taken to a regular court where they might lose the entire company.
Well, it's basically the equivalent of the toll court that you go to.
Right.
Where the magistrate that's there is paid for by the toll road company.
And they talk about the payouts, you know, and it's one of those things too. Like compared again, if you look at the number of vaccines that have been administered over time, the payouts are like a drop in the bucket.
Negligent.
Yeah. But they like to throw that number around. It's something like $9 billion over the course of time. But you know, if you think about like how much
over the
course
of
to
like
a person,
all
if they've
the
been,
years,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, good God, that's like a drop in the bucket to the subsidies that Tesla gets every year.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
It's just very frustrating. You know, it gets thrown
He had a hard start. Now he's going good.
And that's just it. You're in the midst of not only a hot button issue, but a buzzword issue at the same time.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about hot button and buzzword at the same time, you're talking about muddied waters. You're talking about muddied facts. You're talking about literally having to go through sifting of layers to be able to get to the facts.
The only thing worse would be is if there was a constitutional amendment about this. That would be the only thing that would make it worse for me.
And you know
about what the founding fathers,
right?
Although I have actually done that, but
you know,
they were pro-vaccine.
I'm sure they were.
With things as they are now, I give it 3 years. Quite honestly, because when we started this show, I said that it would not be long until they started licensing reporters and until they started licensing bloggers and podcasters.
Right.
And be damned if there wasn't a Republican senator this week that put forth funding for a bill to start licensing reporters.
Nice.
To start.
No, that's
no.
Not
nice.
What's that mean?
No. Granted, by that concept, you could get rid of a lot of fake news. But at the same time,
I see what you mean. Okay,
at the same time,
I get it now.
You could make 85% more fake news.
Right, you're just gonna
no. I think I get it now.
Like you're setting up for more propaganda.
No, you can't limit that.
We are getting close to time here.
Absolutely.
I know right now is kind of the building time because we're not in legislature, we're not in government. When we are, what is it that you guys are doing? Like, I know you go talk to people. Are you like a lobby or?
Well, we're not professional lobbyists, but right now it's really about, like I said, raising awareness. You know, we plan to try and do as many things like this, just being able to reach out to people.
Absolutely.
You know, ways that people can help. They can write letters to their editor. They can visit their reps' offices because they still have offices that are operational even when they're not in session. And even if you can't make it to Austin, if you're in another part of Texas, you can visit your district office, which shouldn't be that far from where you live.
No, there are green signs all around town that point you there.
You can like our Facebook page.
So I'm drunk, I can find
it. You reach out to me. It's Immunize Texas.
Okay.
On Facebook. If you reach out to me, we have private networks that you can be part of, where the real activists, you know, we talk with each other, come up with plans. You know, I think a big thing that we're trying to do is really improve our social media. You know, I post to Facebook as much as I can, but I really need to get better at my Twitter game because that's where the legislators are.
Right? Absolutely.
And that's really where the fight is.
It's where the quick news is.
But it takes a lot of time. Right. Twitter is a time suck, you know. And I have kids, and I have things.
All that social media is a time suck.
Yeah,
it's a job in and of itself.
Volunteer.
So you know, it's all the little things. We call it sort of the trickle effect. You just got to keep at it. You know, even when we're not in session, you have to keep at it. You have to stay present in everyone's consciousness, and you have to just keep working at it and growing and trying to get the message out there. Because for the other side, it's easy. They're passionate. They find each other. It's what drives them. For my side, it's really about I have to have these conversations one-on-one to really get someone to understand.
Yeah, you got to be able to sit down and educate somebody and really, like you said, it's funny talking about onions the way that you did as a chef, as someone who cooked for years. When you get to the middle of the onion, there are no tears.
Yeah.
That's the sweet, beautiful, amazing tasting part of the onion. But it takes going through a lot of tears and a lot of layers to get to that.
Really?
And it takes years to get to the point.
You can also cut them underwater.
I heard about bubble gum.
You can also cut them without being underwater and not cry also. There are numerous ways to cut an onion. But it takes a long time to learn to cut the onion without it making you cry before you get to the sweet, good insides.
the other side is not going anywhere. You know, they look at the last session and they think that they had their wins. I disagree, but you know, that's why we are both here. And you know, for me, it's just I can't give up. I can't just let this go because my kids go to public school, and I know lots of people in the community now from all over Texas. I mean, at this point, I'm connected to people all over Texas, and you know, all it takes is really telling people, like, you know, this is how much exemptions have gone up. We went from 3,000 to almost 53,000.
Yeah, that's startling.
It's never gone down. Yeah. And they are in the Capitol trying to argue that we should make it easier to get exemptions. They're trying to say that...
How much easier can it be? It's literally just paperwork.
They want to remove the requirement to have it notarized.
Oh, my Lord.
And they want it to be downloadable, the form, instead of having to go and get it from the school or have it mailed to you by the state
by the district
services department. But anyway, the point being, like, they want to say in this state, they want to say that they're about vaccine choice. I disagree. I don't think they actually have people that vaccinate that are their members. I think when you really look at it, they're anti-vaccine. I don't think there's really another way to label it.
Yeah, there necessarily shouldn't be a choice. I mean,
you know.
Well, and I thank you very, very, very much for coming on and talking about this.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
This is awesome.
And I would like to know, A, are you willing to come back and talk about this in the future? B, are you willing to come back and debate this topic in the future?
If you can find someone from the other side that's willing to do it in a reasonable manner.
In a
reasonable manner.
We're all about reasonable.
I got all kinds of reasonable people.
Sure.
But I'm about the open debate. And I'm about hearing both sides. I love hearing both sides.
It's kind of like if you can walk into a court, but only facts apply and only facts are allowed. Kind of like that.
That would be amazing.
I like that.
Yeah, you know
that
what I mean?
would be amazing. Yeah. But then we would actively have to make it to where assistant district attorneys and district attorneys are not allowed to be conspiracy theorists. And they aren't allowed to actively weave a narrative and call people accused when they're technically innocent.
No, but
and
facts
things
are
like
facts.
That.
I'm with you.
Facts is facts.
We should fact check while we're doing it.
And that's just it.
I like it.
And that's
I volunteer as tribute to be fact checked.
That's one of the many reasons why I even included the CDC link that we were talking about. And stuff like that, because it is about facts.
Yeah.
It is about reading the news articles and reading the articles from both sides of the fence and reading the studies from both sides of the fence and seeing which ones went through proper channels and which ones were rushed through other studies.
Look at your sources.
Because it's and that's just it. That's just it.
McCarthy, you don't.
Not hard to find.
I have gone back to the high school mentality. And it is the fact of I don't know a teacher in high school that would let me turn in a paper with 3 sources. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not a single one. They would look at me and go, F.
Go find 10 more.
F.
Come back later.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go find more sources.
And if it says double click on that as your source.
Not even.
Size 14. That was my
and that's just it. It's about the sources.
I'm not taking that.
It's about the facts. It's about getting stuff out there and letting people understand what's happening. Jinny, I cannot thank you so much for coming on tonight. Once again, tell everybody the website where they can go and find your information.
It's immunizetx.com. I think it's immunizetx.com.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
But if you just Google Immunize Texas, it's the first thing that comes up.
I bet it's the first one. I'm thinking.
On that note, everybody, once again, welcome to the HC Universal Network. We're a proud member of it. Scary Dad is a proud member of it.
Thanks
Yes,
for
but why
listening to
podcast
this
is
episode
about.
of Dudes and Beer Podcast.
If you can't be good, everybody,
to listen
be
to our
good at
videos
it.
and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Android and iDevices available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.